Hey guys, welcome back to the Zenith Strat restoration project. No, not the infamous Zenith Strat radio. This is the Zenith Stratosphere television from about 1950. I think it was their top of the line model for that year, or close to it. 16-inch circular metal cone picture tube and a very beefy chassis. So in the previous video I gave you a chassis tour right after I pulled them, and I said I would pick up when the recapping is done. Well, basically the recapping's done. So let me get you up to speed with what all has happened. Pulled out a whole bunch of parts. All the crusty sand-coated power resistors were open. They've all been replaced. And a whole bunch of caps. We got some of the classic bumblebees that are black or black beauties with the colored stripes. There's also a whole bunch of these tan varieties. And a whole mess of these guys that look like big old giant domino mica caps. Now these are all paper caps and they are terrible. I tried testing a bunch of these. Couldn't get any meaningful readings out of them whatsoever. I find that ironic because where they typically use these in the circuit are more critical things like timing circuits. At the time, they must have thought that these were higher quality, more robust types, but over time, they failed much worse than these. Some of these I was able to measure, and they were kind of in the ballpark. They were leaky, but at least it measured about the value it was supposed to, and these just terrible. All right, so that's that. Then there's the electrolytics, and there's a lot of them in this set. So we got the power supply chassis here with this giant power transformer. These two guys were just single electrolytics, and this guy for sure vented, and this one weighs so little I think the electrolyte is completely gone, and it may have vented too because it's a bit bulged out on the bottom. Also notice some of these caps are kind of cracked, which leads me to believe that this set really got run into the ground. This one maybe even blown out, and somebody just used it until it stopped working, which is probably when this cap vented. Now, each of these are mounted on phenolic insulating wafers, or just a single electrolytic, so I used adapter caps on these. One, I wanted to get them out of the way so I could clean in here, because this was pretty corroded and nasty, and with these out of the way, I was able to go over that and clean it up. This multi-suction guy I haven't done yet. It's the last major task left before we try powering this setup. Now, I wasn't sure about this when I did the chassis tour, but hey, what's this big transformer here? It turns out this ginormous power transformer is just for the B+ supply and the filament for the two 5U4 rectifiers. It does not power the filaments for any of the tubes up here, and there's 29 tubes in this set. This is the filament transformer for all of these 6.3 volt tubes up here. So, huge transformer for the positive supply and a huge transformer for the filament. This set draws, I think, over 400 watts or something ludicrous. So it may stress out my PR57 a bit when we try powering it up. Alright, so let me show the chassis a bit. So here's all my nice new vitreous enamel power resistors. And all these yellow guys replace the paper caps. For some of the more demanding ones like this in the horizontal circuit, these are polypropylene. And originally they had 2.1s in parallel, so I did the same thing. I'm thinking they may have done that to get better performance, like a better dissipation factor, lower ESR, something like that. I figured, hey, if they used 2 in parallel back then, because I could have used a single 0.22, but I stuck with using 2.1s in parallel. That guy tests okay, but I do have a replacement if need be. I got a nice brand new Clarostat 25 watt 15K, but that's not a sand coated resistor. That's the vitreous enamel. In fact, this would probably look just about identical to it. Those are decent, high quality resistors back then and now. That's why they still make them the same way. They hold up well. Now there's a whole mess of electrolytics up here too. There were a couple over here. There's one still down here I need to get to. We've got 3 multi-suctions here and another multi-suction hiding up here. Now my original plan had been to unmount them because they're very difficult to get at, because They're down there under the yoke and the focus coil and the flyback cage. You can't get in there with a hacksaw and cut them open in place. Not without really, man, I'm not saying it's impossible, but geez, it's it's not trivial. So I tried disconnecting this guy and untwisting the twist locks like I did on another set recently. And I thought I'd cut it open, restuff it, remount it, but these twist locks all broke off. This type of cap, where they have the opening with this kind of a metal ring around it and sort of a rubber plunger there, these tabs, they just snap right off as soon as you try untwisting them. So I boarded that, and then I took a closer look at, well, how are they used? Okay, for one thing, this is only a 2-section cap. I think that was also only a 2-section. The one up here is only a 2-section. So there's 4 physical caps, but they're not each 4-section, which would be an awful lot of caps to replace. But then I looked at how are they used. A lot of them are cathode bypass caps, meaning they go across a resistor on one of the power tubes, like there's a 40 microfarad here on the vertical output tube. Or they're used where there are voltage dividers, like between 2 power resistors like this guy. So we've got this big power supply here that actually has a higher and a lower secondary that produces a couple rails. We've got a plus 400 and a plus 300, but those are further divided down by all those power resistors. We've got a 132 volt rail, we got a 240 volt rail, and so on. So some of those filter caps are used to further filter the power supply after it's divided through some power resistors. Okay, well, the cathode bypass ones especially, it actually is easy to do and it works better electrically if you mount them closer to where they're used. So like here's the vertical output tube, so I just mounted the bypass cap right on the tube base. Instead of having it way over here and running a wire all around, let's just mount the cap there and get rid of the wire. So that's what I did. And there's one over here, and here's one over here. So all 3 of these are bypass caps, and another one down here. And then the other ones for further filtering the power supply are kind of scattered around. I got a few more to do, but that's what I ended up doing with the electrolytics. I could have also drilled some holes and mounted some terminal strips down here, but when I saw that in most cases they were really easy places to mount them, because here's a pin where it goes on the tube and then there's a grounded pin right next to it. Heck, I'll just mount the cap right there, why not? So I got a few more of those to do, and then we're going to try powering this up. Alright, I've done enough work that I want to try a power up. Power supply has been completely rebuilt. All the power supply electrolytics have been replaced, just about all the paper caps. The few that haven't been replaced are not in critical circuits. I have my voltmeter across what I believe is the main B plus supply. I've got it plugged into my metered variac. Here we go. Kind of a 4 amp range. This thing draws a lot of power. Surged up. We're at about 3/4 of an amp. We got B plus coming up. I got to remember to keep clear of the metal cone. CRT current draws going up. About 2 amps. Supply voltage is holding steady. Nothing smoked. Alright, it seems we can turn it on without anything bad happening, so I'm going to leave it on a little bit longer this time, and I've got out my high voltage probe. Didn't see the screen light up before, so I don't know if that means we don't have high voltage or I need to adjust something. Didn't touch the ion trap magnet on the neck of the CRT, but it may have moved over the years. Could simply be I need to turn the brightness up, which is one of these many controls. They're labeled, but it's a little hard to see them This is brightness. It was up nearly all the way. Now it's up all the way. Control up here. One of many things I don't like about this meter is because of all the fancy display and extra electronics that chews up batteries so they have to go to sleep. You can adjust that setting, but then it drains the batteries faster. That's why I still like the Fluke 27. I can leave this on for a week and the battery will just keep going and going and going. Anyway. Okay, we do have some high voltage, but it's not very high. It's about 1.7 kilovolts. Just check how much voltage we got going into this thing. Yeah, it's a little low. It's only about 110. Let's turn that up a bit. Oh, oh, I don't know if I can catch this in time. And the high voltage rectifier was doing a little dance. I think just a little bit of a purple dance going on inside. So let's kill the power. I don't know what it is about those 1B3 high voltage rectifiers, but boy, they do not hold up well. I should have just replaced it before I even tried powering this up. That's why I ordered up a whole bunch of new old stock ones a while back, if you recall, because they're just so often bad. Alright, new tube installed. Here's the old one. Zenith. This could very well be the original 1B3. Alright, let's try that again. So there's two things. One, this draws so much power, we're dragged down my Variac, so I turn it up a bit to get closer to 117. And two, that high voltage rectifier went wonky. Ooh, yeah, I can hear the high voltage coming up. Nice. We do have a faint raster. It's a little low, only about 10 kilovolts. A little hard to see with the shop lights on, so let's turn things down. Oh yeah, it's coming up. So let's see, this is brightness. That's not brightness. Control, I thought said brightness. Neither is that. Right, which one of you is brightness? It does volume. It's vertical hold, I think. This is centering. This is another centering control, I think. This has got to be brightness. There must be something wrong with that circuit. Just seems actually it's acting more like horizontal drive, if anything. These functions are stamped onto the chassis. It's horizontal hold, horizontal phase, horizontal frequency, little trimmers there. Alright, well, that's something we'll take a look at. I haven't checked any of the tubes yet, so there's all kinds of things we can look at. But hey, we got a Raster, and B plus is holding steady, so that's a win. Oh, the dial lights are burned out. Or no, that's right. I used to think that. I came to realize when I worked on a similar set, there's an RCA jack on the back that goes to a button on the cabinet, and I think it toggles those lights being on or off, so you can turn them off when you're watching the set, so the lights, dial lamps don't distract you. This is the zoom switch, so that is working. In zoom mode, it expands to fill it out vertically. Alright, cool. Like it to be brighter, but so be it. Let's try throwing on some knobs and injecting a test pattern. Alright, let's see if we can get some reception. I can think of a few reasons why the high voltage would be low. Could be weak damper tube, of course, horizontal output tube, adjusting horizontal drive, the horizontal frequency could be off. There's a whole bunch of things, so I'm not too concerned about that right now. Should figure out what channel we're on. I think it's 4 or 5. Channel indicator's kind of goofy on these. Just go through all the channels on my generator. Also not really seeing any snow, so try tweaking the channel clunker. Kind of something will change channels, so that's a good sign that the tuner is functioning. The last chassis I worked on, I really had to clean the tuner before I could get good reception, so this might be the same situation. Alright, so I think the next order of business is to check all the tubes. I'm just about done testing tubes. I used my Hickok Cardmatic 121. I had cards for all the tubes except this guy. That's why I don't use this tester as much as I'd like, because I don't have all the cards, so I need to pull another tester to test the 6SH7. Anyway, mostly the tubes have tested rather well. There was a 6AG5 and a 6AU6 that were a little marginal, so I replaced those, but I think this is the real culprit here. 12AT7, which they use for the video detector and first video amp. It's kind of unusual. I'm used to seeing a guy like this, a dual diode 6AL5 for the detector, or sometimes a semiconductor, but not a triode for the detector. But this was, it just lit up like a Christmas tree when I put it in the socket. All these short lights came on, and so I don't know what's up with this tube, but there's something very wrong with it. So that got replaced. Let's check this guy. Ooh. The 6AL5s tend to be kind of immortal, really low power dual diode, but man, that could be a problem too, because that's, I believe, used for the either AGC or is it the AFC for the horizontal sync. Let's take a gander at the schematic here. I'll show you that video. Sorry, the 12AT7 as well. So there's the video detector for his video amp. So that guy was shot. What's the 6AL5? Oh, it is a sync discriminator. So we weren't getting a picture, but if we were, it might have been unable to get a horizontal sync lock because that tube is just about dead. So I gotta dig up a replacement for that too. Alrighty, let's give this another try with the replacement tubes in place. Something else a little unusual about this set is that it's a left-handed set, meaning the channel clunker's on the left-hand side. I keep finding myself reaching to the opposite side when I'm reaching for either the power or channel. It's curious because on the portal set I just restored, it was the other way around. So they seem to have changed it over time. I'm thinking it's because way back in the dawn of TV, there just weren't that many channels, so you'd be more commonly adjusting the power and volume and contrast, I guess. Anyways, still got the shading problem. And new reception. It's getting late. I'm going to pick up on this tomorrow with fresh eyes, but let me give you a little bit more info. So obviously we have this black band on the side of the screen. So the question is there something going through the video system that's blanking this out, or is the whole image just shifted too far over to the left? Well, this type of set does have centering controls that add a slight DC bias to the vertical and horizontal yoke windings. Rather than having to manipulate magnets around the neck, you can center it with potentiometers. So let me vary the horizontal centering, and it does move it. But that's as far over as we could get it. So there could be something wrong with that circuit. There could be something wrong with the mechanical positioning of the deflection yoke or focus coil. Could be a damaged yoke, although that's my least likely scenario. Then we also don't really have any reception. There's kind of some hint of snow coming through, but not really working like it should. And there's something concerning I didn't show you guys earlier about that. And that would be the tuner. When I was cleaning it, I noticed that it was loose, and that's because these two screws are missing, and the two on the back were not tightened down all the way. Which makes you think somebody may very well have been tinkering around inside here. Now that I've worked on half a dozen of these porthole sets, at least half of them had a component in here that was fried. A power resistor that provides, I think, a plate load resistor on one of these tubes. So that could very well be shot. So we're going to pop this cover off when we pick up and take a look inside. Also, I think it's time to, well, one, review the video amp circuit, and two, try some signal injecting and some basic troubleshooting things. So one real simple thing to do is, say, ground the grid of the video amp or drive it into cutoff to verify that it's not a weird signal going to the video that's blocking it off, but it's something else. And then we can inject test patterns like right at the grid of the video amp and eliminate the entire tuner IF chain, that kind of thing. So be looking forward to that when we pick up. Thanks for watching.